Zoobie Show on the world famous LIR.com, 927LIR.com, and YouTube. I am John Kalaboukas, the Bouk, with my friend Paul Zubulake, Zoobie. And back again by popular demand, Lieutenant Dan Lettuce. Welcome back, Dan.
Thank you, John, Boop, Paul, Zoob. Thanks for having me back. Much
Oh,
appreciated.
we're so excited you're back, Dan. You're basically our favorite, our favorite, the fans' favorite. So, and as John mentioned, I think at the end of last week or the last show we had, which was a couple of weeks ago, we need to have a Giant fan post draft. So even though the draft is a little bit of a memory, it's very important that we talk about the Giants because they were really the bigger story in this draft.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Little surprised, actually not really surprised. Everybody knew who the first pick was. Coming, what after that? There was a lot of smoke and mirrors. And yeah, I think we did well, but I say the same thing every year. I mean, everybody says, everybody looks good, you look good, everybody looks good after the draft. And I'm just happy that we filled a couple voids that we definitely needed. I jotted down the names here. And yeah, I mean, it looks like we're going to try to find an identity, defense, back to the defense, and I'm excited. But like I said, you got to show me. Don't tell me, you have to show me. So hopefully some of the pieces they picked up will be definitely get a lot of playing time. I mean, other than Dart. I mean, the Dart thing, started the day two before the draft, right? Everybody's saying, New Orleans might pick them up, or the Raiders, or he might fall to. So again, it's, I'm glad Schoen sat on his hands, and we didn't have to give up much to get back in the first round, right?
Right.
Considering what, I mean, who jumped right behind us, gave up something pretty big. I don't know who traded right before. Like we gave up, obviously we traded to Houston, and I think the Rams traded for somebody to get back. Oh, that Atlanta, because Atlanta needed another pass
Yeah,
rusher.
Atlanta. Yeah,
Gave up.
Atlanta. Yeah, they handle this draft like the GM is going to be out the door if he doesn't win. So he, kind
Yeah,
of. Yeah, we're not going to go team by team, but we
no,
could
no,
maybe
but
talk about some of the wild things that happened, and starting right off the top with the big trade with the Jacksonville Jaguars with their new GM decided that Travis Hunter is just a special player where I think there's no doubt about it. This is going to be the first two-way player where he will play something close to. I mean, obviously not going to play 100%, but he is going to probably play between 60 and 80% of the snaps on offense and defense. So that alone brings some excitement to that horrific franchise in Jacksonville.
yeah. Well, they needed a spark. I mean, they gave up a lot. They gave up a lot to get him. And
Yes.
but I guess if you're thinking you have like Otani, right? You have two players now. It's just going to be a
Yep.
matter of how many snaps he's going to be able to do, because it's a big step up from the NFL to college. You're
Mhm.
playing against Met like seasoned veterans, right?
Sure.
So I'm assuming they're going to start him at right. Cornerback is going to be his main, and then he's
I
going
don't think they've decided. I mean, this is either way. I mean, he could be full time. I actually was leaning towards being a full time receiver. Now I get what you're saying. Traditionally, it's been like, oh, you got to play defense and you'll come in on third down. I just think because of Trevor Lawrence and the desperation to get him to the next level,
Yeah.
that it's just not going to be good enough for him to play third down. So I think they actually may go the other way. But then I'm actually thinking he's going to be used a lot on both sides of the ball. So maybe he just won't play a lot of first downs. This is going to be like, again, it's just going to be fascinating to watch. And for a franchise that really talk about identity or lack thereof, right? So they went for it. The GM is like, what? He's the youngest GM in the NFL now. His
I
first
think he's like
year, so
34
it
years
was
old.
bold.
They had
It
him
was
on
bold.
there talking, and I mean the owner's pretty nutty from what I understand for
Yeah.
Jacksonville,
Yes,
and
he is.
so again that whole franchise is kind of dysfunctional. So they need, you're right, they need some. Trevor Lawrence has been hurt, uh, a lot of his career. It's ironic that before they got rid of Jones, my boy Daniel Jones, They were comparing his stats to like Trevor Lawrence. One playoff win, but and it's very comparable.
Sure.
I mean, you wouldn't put them in the same category, obviously. I wouldn't, but I would think Trevor Lawrence has more of an upside. But you don't know. Like he's got to show it this year, right? And they gave him a lot of money. They gave him a gazillion dollars. So
Oh no, they gave him a huge deal, and yeah, so it's that's the way it started.
yeah,
And then your Giants. So I'm going to give you a perspective of a non-Giant fan, Dan.
okay.
And John, I'll let you chip in right after this. But I just found the whole, and we're definitely going to get Shedeur Sanders. How can we not?
Your boy.
The whole idea of the Giants front office, the way Joe Shane was just like his cockiness and confidence and the backslapping after all their decisions. And to me, he's the ultimate genius slash con man because he put himself in a position to basically get another year besides next year by strategically drafting Jackson Dart, where I think it's very unlikely that he will start from the get-go, right? He's not. And he may play by the end of the year, the old Eli way of breaking him in, but that almost guarantees him another year.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that's a no-brainer. I mean, like I know we texted a little before the draft, and I'm like, they have to. If they renewed their contracts after the last 3 years, they're going to definitely run it back with them another year or two. He's going to. I mean, definitely. It's going to be interesting though, like you said, how much does he play? And they might throw him in towards the end of the year. I mean, he's going to have time to learn, and just to speak to just hear the conversations with the kid, he's willing to do that. Where if we pivoted to Shedeur Sanders, right, that whole thing was just very bizarre. The Giants spent so much time, right, going to all his games and having all the interviews with him. I don't even know about interviews towards, during the season, like interviews. Like when it came down, push came to shove, and they sat down and spoke to him. I'm assuming that's where they like, well, a couple red flags popped up, and how patient would he and his father be if the Giants are like wallowing in 5 wins with Wilson and Winston, and then he's sitting on the bench doing nothing, right? You would definitely hear the chirping. And New York, as you know, as a Jet fan, the media would be all over that. They would definitely take the heat off of you guys for another year and right on the Giants. And they're going to be getting like hit over their head. So, I mean, I'm glad. It's interesting when we talked about like, did Sanders get that much notoriety because of his dad in Colorado? I would say yes. And it helped him go from like probably like middle of the road quarterback to the top of the chart. And then it kind of hurt him to get drafted because they seen the baggage, they seen the writing on the walls. I mean, I watched the ESPN, draft, and Mel Kiper was like crying. I mean, I could have swore I seen him crying every time they passed on Shedeur Sanders. He was like dumbfounded. I don't believe. New Orleans passed on him. Your boy
Everyone
saying, "Oh, but he goes like."
Well, if since you were watching that, did you realize that how long Sanders' name was as the next person that's going to get picked? They have ranked by
best
one.
available.
Best available. Thank you. Yeah. He was on there for freaking 3 days. 3 days they had his name as the next guy. And I'm like, this is crazy. And you know what, Dan? You were right about the Giants spending a lot of time. And it's like anything else. They whisper to each other, okay? If you're going to tell me there's no collusion in football or baseball, you have your head in the sand. They definitely, all these teams talk to each other. And the fact of the matter is when that story came out where, Dabo gave him like a playbook or something and he had to, and somehow he found out that he didn't know it or didn't study or, all these things going on. And then I'm telling you, Paul, you got to watch the movie Draft Day because it is almost identical to what happened to Sanders.
It's funny.
I don't want to give away the movie.
No, it's
But
funny because that actually is on Netflix. So I was flicking around and I told my wife, I'm like, John's been begging me to watch it, and I promised I would. Of course, I didn't. But yeah, no,
but
the whole I just find it comical between Joe Shane's cockiness and the whole NFL is going by Brian Daboll's evaluation. Where did they get this cred, Dan? Did
Well,
anybody notice the results last season?
well,
I just find it
listen,
just amazing
I wanted
how
to,
they have skated on their disastrous season, and
I was,
everybody's so optimistic now. It's really fascinating.
I know Daboll's a quarterback whisperer, right?
He
And that's what he
knows.
said. That's why he got the job. I mean, listen, their first year set them back, a couple of years. Let's face it, that's what happened. They overachieved that first year,
Yeah.
looking like Dable and Schoen, right? Like to be geniuses, right? But then, like you said, definitely got cocky. They did, and the tip of the iceberg, unfortunately, was the straw that broke the camel's back was the show they had over the summer, the Hard Knocks, right?
Right.
They could do no wrong. And the reason why they had a shitty year, excuse my language, the year before, because of injuries, right? Injuries. That's why. This year we're coming back healthy, blah, 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 gonna have a good draft, blah, blah, blah. And they were bad. And it was embarrassing. The whole Barkley thing was embarrassing, you know.
yeah.
And again, I'm not gonna hammer him for the Barkley thing, only because for us, let's face it, he was hurt half the year, good soldier, wanted to be here, but he had other things. He didn't want to put the money. He didn't want to put the money there, and it came back
Well,
to bite him in the
he
butt. And look, he won Philly a Super Bowl. So
right.
now
Yeah.
fast forward, like last year, right? Last year we had the best, one of the top two teams draft last year. He knocked it out of the park. That was last year. This year he knocked it out of the park again. What does that mean though? Like, so what? So when you look at who's your cornerback? Sauce Gardner. No one, shut down. He's going to be like the next Revis. Last year, what happened? Right?
Bad
So
year, down year.
yeah, so everything is, so they hear that Deshaun has a good draft last year. This is a good draft. After those two debacles, like with Evan Neal, right? And Kayvon Thibodeau, I mean, these are like supposed to be franchise guys that's going to move your franchise forward. So yeah, I don't, like I said, I wanted to get rid of them. I wanted a clean slate, but they are here. Hopefully they made some good moves and it's going to pay off in the long run. And like John was saying, like, yeah, these owners talk. Some of them, they don't like each other, but if they catch whispers of stuff and, whether it's true or not, I mean, if,
Well,
Dion, like just him in itself telling organizations what he requires of his son. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's going to pull a Eli Manning, like, and they're going to go to where they want to go, and they're going to set the rules and blah, blah, blah. And like they were saying, any franchise that gets him, like the Browns, like shit, he's saying he wants to coach in the NFL someday. You know what I'm saying? So that in itself, like undermining, I think a lot of teams just seen a lot of outside noise that they don't want. Like you guys, like the Jets, like you were saying, this the third round, the Jets can't take a buy on him. But after dealing with the whole Rodgers debacle, to get him in that organization, I think you did the right thing by passing on him. Even though I
Well,
tell you should pick him, but
yeah,
again,
I mean, if you want to bring the Jets angle into the Shador Sanders thing, I mean, it's this is a franchise that's done nothing for so long, and they don't have the guts to do it.
yeah.
And if you're such a believer in your draft board or best available player value, obviously the kid should have been taken earlier. But John, I mean, and Dan, the interview process that he went through was a disaster. And as John said, that news spread like wildfire throughout the league, and nobody was willing to take a stand in saying that I have a strong coach. And that's what I was talking about with John, was that Aaron Glenn has got this strong personality that we're hearing so much about. To me, would be something like a perfect guy for
yeah,
Shador Sanders to go under. So why couldn't the Jets
Yeah.
make a move in the fourth round? Instead, they take a nondescript wide receiver, probably their worst pick of the draft. I mean, I will get to the guys
Who
because I
can't
want to stick
catch?
with the
And by the way,
Giants
who
now.
can't catch? By the way, who can't catch a pass?
Yeah, well, that's
Isn't that
another story. So
wonderful?
yeah,
We get
we'll
we get wide receivers that can't catch a pass. I mean, don't we have enough of that already? Yeah, I mean,
Well,
Lazard.
we'll get to the Jets draft, but I just
Please.
want to get back to the Giants draft.
Yeah,
So
so all
if
over
we
the map.
throw let's throw Sanders out the window. They feel that Dart's a better prospect. I actually don't agree. I still think that Sanders is a better prospect. He'll be a better player. Our draft guru that we should mention, and thanks again, Alex, right? Alex Stam, who was on last week, Dan.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure John, he was just still like couldn't believe what was going on with Sanders because he really liked him as a player. And to see it actually happen and have his team, the Jets, pass on him numerous times
Yeah.
because they can't deal with the distraction. It's not really that a distraction if you have a strong organization. But there is no doubt the kid he just lit himself on fire, Dan. I mean, it's blatantly obvious. I mean, this for no one to take a shot at him in the
well,
fourth round. I mean, obviously it was pretty obvious that he wasn't going to be a first rounder. So then
yeah,
it comes this argument, oh, he's not a starter material, so you can't draft him in the second, maybe even the third. But the fourth round was like the perfect spot to take him.
yeah.
And
Well,
nobody still took him.
Pittsburgh was, you talk about a strong
Yeah.
organization. So, I mean, you mean to tell me Pittsburgh, who's waiting on Aaron Rodgers, you couldn't took him in the third round or fourth round? They ended up taking somebody, I think, in the seventh round, quarterback.
They took
So,
Howard. They took the
oh,
Ohio State
yeah,
quarterback. Yeah, I didn't, yeah, was it the seventh? Because he slid also.
oh,
So yeah, it was definitely a very deep draft. I think because I still want to talk about the other players the Giants took. We talked Carter briefly, and that's going to be very interesting dynamic going into the season. Is how are they going to split the snaps up? Because Thibodeau and Carter and Brian Burns, right? I mean, most people say, oh, this is a good problem to have, but all these guys want to be on the field. So
yeah.
that is, what do you think about that, Dan? Who do you think is it Thibodeau? Is the odd man out? Will they move him before training camp?
Well, I picked up his option, right? I picked up his fifth year option, of
Right.
course, it's a no brainer. I don't know what when the Giants were at their best, they had a lot of pass rushes
Yeah.
and Spagnola and I think Perry Fuel, who I was a big fan of, that won the last Super Bowl. They find ways to get these guys, and that's what they have to do. I think if you have talent, you get them all on the field. I hate like when the Giants went from Martindale, who all he did was an aggressive blitz, cover corners, you cover, and then they get this guy in, Bowen, who runs a totally different system. And you had last year to teach these guys a new system, and they were all out of sorts, and that hurt them. Plus the injuries, Dexter Lawrence had nobody next to him. Then he got hurt. So you have to get the athletes right. You can't draft for, in my eyes, you can't draft for a system. You got to get the guys who know how to play. So to your question, answer your question is like, how is it going? I don't know how he's going to do it, but he better find out. He better figure it out, right? And
That'll
then
be
you,
interesting if they on passing downs are all three of them going to be on the field with Lawrence. The kid that they took in the third round, right? Obviously, they traded their second
yeah,
rounder.
Alexander, yeah,
Darius Alexander's actually a highly regarded kid, a little older prospect. And then in the fourth round, who is, I mean, Dan, I mean, if this guy is not going to be the fan favorite over in East Rutherford, New Jersey, Cam Skattebo, who is I mean, I don't know if you've seen him play. He did play in the college playoff against Texas in that absolutely wild game, which they ended up unfortunately losing. I mean, the guy he's so easy to root for. So that was just, but Alexander and Skattebo, great values. Obviously Abdul Carter was, maybe the best player in the draft. We'll find out. And then they could take a risk with taking Dart. So, I mean, right there, I mean, you just got to be happy because with the kid that they drafted last year, Tracy, that's a nice little 1-2 punch at running back for the Giants.
I agree. And it's funny because that's the only time I actually seen him in that playoff game.
Okay, yeah.
I'm like, what a bull, running people over. Like he played with disregard, and he's not the fastest, but he makes the big plays, at least in that game and throughout the season. So when he was coming up, I'm like, I wonder if we're going to be able to get him. And yeah, a friend of ours, big Denver Bronco fan, Bill Vesley, broader name.
Oh my God, that'll drive the viewership up getting that name on the cast, Dan.
Well, he was looking like because Denver was saying they needed a running back, and they in the second round,
Right, right.
and he was still floating around, and sure enough, that first they got him. So yeah, very happy. Hopefully he stays healthy. The nice 1-2 punch could be my new jersey. Hopefully he doesn't, the jersey controversy with him is devastating because like that thing grew legs too. Obviously, I don't want to go off topic, but
No, that's actually a funny story, right? Because who would ever believe that you've got Abdul Carter we're talking about. Not only did he wear 11 in college, which is obviously a bizarre number for an edge player, which happens to be Phil Simms' number. He's basically kind of playing the LT position, right? And then he would want his number. So yeah, that was
that's a little bizarre.
unwanted publicity there. They should have just nipped that in the bud. What happened there?
And that's what LT said. Listen, kid, I ain't giving you my number. Get your own. Have it retired. I mean, that kind of sums it up right there, And, but yeah, Scatterboo, and then they got the linemen, right? They need to do something. I mean, their offensive line last year, they were middle of the road before everybody got hurt, and then they were horrible. So hopefully they can stay healthy this year. I mean, they got a couple swing tackles because they're not squeezing the guard into the tackle position for Thomas. And, they're going to run it back. That's the big thing they said. They didn't really do much on offense. It was heavy on the defense this year, in the draft and free agency. So, I mean, they thinking that it was all Daniel Jones. That's my eyes. That's why they sunk so far out of the. And, with Wilson, who's competent, we only have him for 1 year, thankfully. And then we got Winston for 2 years. So, that's the timeline. I guess get this kid up and running, maybe get him at the end of the year. And next year, if he can start, him and Winston, and that's going to be it,
And they also got Marcus Mbow, another great name. A guy, actually, a lot of people, he was on Mel's best available list for a while, too. And they got him in the 5th round. They took a tight end. I don't know much about Thomas Fedone. And then Corey Black, I've actually heard of. He's a defensive back. So the Giants desperately need some depth back there. So, yeah, no, on paper, the Giants, the Dart situation, we'll find out. I'm not a huge fan of him. And then, of course, if you don't have a quarterback, you can't win in the NFL. So, but they are definitely able to kind of sneak an extra year, unless it's an implosion of bad play next year. I'm still worried about Daboll, Dan. It's just something about him that I just deep down, I don't know if the players want to go all out for him. So I could have that completely wrong, but I don't know. I'm still, there's just something about him. I just think he's an offensive coordinator, and that's his max.
Well, listen, some guys, that's their forte, defense, right? Offensive coordinators, he's getting a good, they're milking Daniel. He's getting a lot of bang. He's getting a lot of opportunities, right, to prove himself. He did it with Jones, turned him around, but that's it. He couldn't. And his problem with Jones too is once he found out he was not able to, run his system, which is another thing. I get so crazy as a Giant fan saying the Giants run one of these complex offensive system. Why? Why are you installing a system that these guys don't understand, or it takes them so long to understand? Why? I mean, it makes no sense because you're smarter than everybody else. That's why you've been losing, and that's why I think he was stubborn once Jones took that step, and he couldn't do the playbook properly. So instead of pivoting back to dumb it down, they just kept doing it, and that's the result. So they're fortunate to have their jobs. I think Mara would have got rid of him if we didn't get, did the 2 year, so you had to get away from that. Hopefully with some of these pieces, better quarterback play. I keep hearing, they got the toughest division in the league, but as following sports, each year is different. Each year that you think this team's going to make the next step, then the division stinks. Last year, Minnesota was supposed to stink, and they made it to the, one of the best records in the league. So a lot of the Jacksonville was supposed to be good. They stunk. So, like I said, it's an exciting time of year because everybody's
they're all undefeated. They're all undefeated.
Yeah.
So you're optimistic. The bottom line is, as a Giant fan, are you optimistic?
Yeah, until the first game, and then you're like,
I like it.
Hopefully
all right. So there's the Giants. So before we get to the Jets, John, did you keep track of our draft guru's names that he came up with? Do you have it listed in front of you?
I had it and I disposed of it, but he did very, very well.
Yeah, well, okay, so we'll give everybody a quick update, Dan. So what it is with Alex, and I think you did hear the show, right? He gives out his
I did.
players that
Can
he
I ask you a question? Where did you find him?
liked. Where did we find
He
him,
is
John? You tell
I'm
that
just
story.
saying, he's a
What-
20-year-old kid. I'm like, he's hanging out with you boomers. Like, why?
He is actually my nephew.
Oh, okay. All
We got
right. So,
nepotism going on in Bouk and Zoobie. So,
okay.
yeah, again, John, before we get into his picks and the Jets draft, and we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. It will be a longer show. But as always, I want to thank our great viewers who are checking out our content on a now bi-weekly basis in the non-football season. We're actually going to keep that going throughout. Then we'll go back to weeklies once we get right before the NFL season. So as always, we thank our viewers on youtube.com. Please like the episode, subscribe to the channel. It drives the algorithm. For our Spotify.com users, which Dan, I believe you're smart enough to kind of listen to us as opposed to
Yes.
watch us.
Yeah.
But for your viewers who join you on Spotify.com, if you want to check us out on YouTube, you got to search the show, Bouk, Bouk, and Zoobie, Zoobie. So same thing with Spotify. Like the episode, subscribe to the channel. And of course, Dan, who was a big LIR fan back in the day. Not really, but we were. Spinning the tunes, right, John, at the world famous LIR.com, 927LIR.com. And we are a word of mouth show. And so tell your friends.
Yeah. So Dan, Alexander has been on our show 3 times, and the first time Paul had no idea about it. I knew about his football knowledge. I mean, he's just uncanny. I've watched Jet games with him, spoken to his dad, and I'm like, wow, this kid knows a lot. So we had him as a high schooler. He started off with us, senior year in high school, and made his picks. And Paul kept saying, was talking about him for the rest of the year because he was so accurate the first time. Then we had him on a second time. He made some more picks. Paul started talking about him the second year. He said, wow, this kid is really. So here I am. I actually wrote down his picks, and I'm watching the draft, and I'm like, unbelievable how accurate he was. And I had to text Paul. I said, and in the last show, Paul actually asked him, did you ever think about going into football and doing this as a career?
I heard it. Yeah, interesting.
So
Be the new
We'll see. Hopefully somebody's checking out the Bouk and Zoobie show and telling somebody who has got contacts to give the kid a chance. So, Dan, he gave us 3 names. R.J. Harvey, a running back out of UCF, Central Florida, who he thought was actually going to be kind of in the 4th round, actually goes in the 2nd round to the Denver Broncos. So that's somebody for our friend Bill to watch next year. And then the other kids with Jaden Higgins, is it Jalen? No, it's Jaden. Jaden Higgins, who's a wide receiver who Alex said is his top prospect in the draft. And he went to the Texans so CJ Stroud gets another weapon. So he's going to get an opportunity to play. And then the third kid was a cornerback, Darian Porter, who went in the 3rd round, where Higgins went in the top of the 2nd, and then Porter went to the Raiders. So all of them are AFC players, John. So it'll be a little easy for us AFC guys to keep track. We'll see how they do. That's it. We'll mark him, and maybe he'll be back on the show. So yeah, that's the history, Dan. We found somebody through the family tree. He's a big Jet fan, and he's had some good thoughts about the Jets. And he did a really good job talking about the prospects, and he was very accurate, except for the Shedeur Sanders. He fell down that hill like so many people who, because I just find it hysterical now. All the alleged experts are like, oh yeah, we kind of knew this could happen and all this sort of
Yeah,
stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah, everybody had him going in the 5th round. Yeah, sure.
nobody.
So yeah, enough of that. So um, Jets draft, right? This is a this meat and potatoes draft, as I'll call it, Dan and John. The Jets are a team that is in a rebuild, and they drafted like they were in a rebuild.
Yeah.
They got an offensive tackle, right tackle, huge need. They got a tight end, Mason Taylor. Armand Menbu was the tackle out of Missouri.
Yeah.
So they got Jason Taylor's kid, who's actually a young prospect. Both of those guys are young prospects. And then their 3rd round pick, the kid from Florida State, Thomas, right? He's also a young player. So they actually drafted younger players in an era where, because of the COVID situation, there are a lot of older prospects. The Jets went young, which fits what they're doing. So the first 3 picks, they did very well. They got good value. They kind of filled needs. I mean, they got an extra corner. Technically, he's not going to step right in. Membu is. Taylor will definitely start. But day 3, they kind of went a little off the reservation there with an odd pick in the 4th round, where they took the receiver from Georgia Smith, as John mentioned. Lots of speed, not really good hands, way overdrafted, could really turn out to be a bad pick. And then they did some trading. And, they ended up with the safety, kid from Alabama, Malachi Moore, to go with our last year's pick, right? Malachi Corley. So hopefully both Malachis can actually help us out. And then they took an edge player and a linebacker, right? Both from the Miami Hurricanes. Not, get special teams, maybe a decent edge pass rusher. So the Jets just, in my view, I don't like to give grades, but if I had to, I'd give them like a B. And the Giants, I would definitely give them like a B plus. So I don't know if Johnny, you have any thoughts. I mean, I know you're not a big college football guy, so it's kind of hard for you to have get too excited. But at least they filled some, much needed needs.
Well, what went under the radar, probably not under your radar, but many people, is they actually did sign a quarterback. And I don't know if you know much about him, this kid Brady Cook
Right.
from Missouri.
Undrafted free agent. Actually, not a bad undrafted free agent. Good. He's actually had a pretty good college career to replace the retiring Jordan Travis, a disastrous pick from the year before, who's retiring at 24. What, Dan?
They finally came out what was wrong with the information in regards to the kid, because of his horrific injury. He wasn't coming back, because that was the whole thing with like I said, I don't follow the Jets like you guys, but I'm like, whatever happened to that kid who would have been maybe a Heisman Trophy candidate if he didn't get hurt, right? Because Florida was, I mean, they were undefeated, and they got screwed out of the playoffs.
Because he got hurt. And now he's out.
Got hurt.
Yeah, it's sad. It's kind of sad. I don't know what the Jets were doing with the medicals. I guess they brought in the Met doctors, John, to check him out. So I'm not really so sure about that.
I actually watched his. I actually took the time to watch some highlights of Brady Cook. He's a scrambler. He doesn't have a bad arm, too.
Nice guy.
He's
John,
not bad. He's actually not that bad for
should have
someone
been
that was
drafted,
undrafted.
actually. He should have been. Hey, the situation the Jets are in, that they need to make some miracle hits on guys. I mean, it's that's very unlikely, but hey, if he's a backup, even that will help him. So this is where they are, and if you look at any of the under-overs for next year, predictions, where they're sitting, what Vegas thinks, right? I mean, the Jets are just not going to be a good team next year. And it's tough, 14, 15 years running, whatever it is, with no playoffs, and then trying to roll out a rebuild and thinking the fans are going to be excited about it. I mean, and that's what they're doing. So they're hoping that people are going to be patient, and they need to be patient. But how is the fan base going to be patient? I mean, how much is this? People our age are just, we don't have any. We're done. I mean, that's why it's just going to be a tough situation. But again, nothing spectacular. The biggest problem with the draft was for them is that they did not draft one defensive tackle, which is like a huge problem, and they did not address their biggest problem on defense, the inability to stop the run. So
Yeah.
they really, I think, especially with the fourth round, there were a couple of D tackles on the board they could have taken. That was just one of these bizarre situations. So it's going to be very interesting to see, because if they can't stop the run again, and people are just going to be like, this is just the same old thing. So I mean, we're going to save them for next year. I mean, the Giants have a lot more excitement around them, and the Jets are just, they're just going to be lying in the weeds, right, John? I mean, it's just, there's going to be very little enthusiasm going into the season.
I mean, the only good thing I think that they did was that they picked up the options of Wilson, Gardner, and Johnson. I think
They
that
did
was the
pick up the
only
fifth year.
smart
Yeah.
thing that they did.
Yeah, those were almost, they had to, on all of them.
No, but there was no guarantee there. I was afraid they weren't going to do it for Johnson.
That was a possibility. He's making 13 million. It's amazing how people don't realize these first rounders in that fifth year option. I mean, they're getting some big money. Sauce Gardner's getting 20 million. So I'm
Unbelievable.
surprised, Dan, you haven't taken any shots at. So you mentioned Sauce Gardner, but a huge worry has come up in the tabloids. John, did you notice that Sauce Gardner made the news for something off the field? Did you catch that?
Yeah, I just forgot what it was.
Dan, are you aware of this story with Sauce Gardner's new girlfriend? Have you seen
Oh no, did she make movies or something? Is she
that? Oh my God, am I like? It's where have you guys been? So
No, I
I guess.
read it, but I don't remember what it was
Oh,
Well, I
for.
really?
think because you're probably not, in the hip hop scene, so you probably don't know
Not
Sauce
wild.
Gardner's new girlfriend, who's, I think she goes by Pink Spice or something Spice. So she's not a Spice Girl, John. So just so you know, uh, John and Dan, can you get a bigger red flag on a guy than his choice of a female partner?
Trouble, right?
Trouble. Are you kidding me?
So I don't know
Listen,
so
athlete.
maybe they'll break up by the season, John. I'm just, all I could do is I could just hope.
Well, I was
No,
laughing. I was laughing, Paul, because I thought you were going to bring up the fake phone call to Sanders that he got drafted, and they found the mole who leaked it was what's his name's son.
Yeah,
That's
Jeff
a
Holbrook.
defensive. Holbrook. He's seen the number on his father's, and they. I mean, it was a pretty funny video. I felt bad for the kid actually from doing something like that, but that's what these kids do. Like, what is he thinking? Like, they're not going to get caught. So, I mean, that's
well,
I mean, they got fined, and
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
well, what's even worse is he videotaped it, the dummy.
yeah,
You saw
oh,
the
he
whole thing.
videotaped himself.
Yeah, he
yeah.
videotaped himself. It was the
John,
dumbest thing, and it's like, really, people are not going to see this? Who you
I
are?
you hate to kind of make fun of athletes sometimes, the stupidity of some of them. But Ulbrich, I know his son's obviously not, probably obviously played. I'm sure he played, but yeah, really embarrassing. Thankfully, he's Atlanta's problem. But
Yeah,
I do have to make a correction. It is not Pink Spice. It is Ice
Ice
Spice.
Spice.
Ice Spice. So I think the Jets might have some fun in the stands when Ice is cheering on Sauce, who hopefully can actually maybe hang on to an interception this year. That would be nice. So yeah, I saw that, and I'm just like, between that and his love of golf, I just, can you get anything from the hip hop world and golf? That's what. So Sauce Gardner is a worldly guy. I think he had a bad season. I mean,
Terrible
Jet
season.
fans who
Terrible
covering
season.
up for him and saying he's like still a top, one of the top
No way.
corners. It's like
No
he's got to
way.
prove it this year. So he's on a
Yeah,
huge prove it situation. So that is going to be a big storyline, obviously, on him. And will they sign Wilson to an extension, which they probably should? But like I said, the Jets are in a situation, everybody's expendable.
Yes.
So everybody's on a 1-year deal with the Jets right now.
Who ran that draft? Was it Muji or was it uh, Glenn?
Yeah, well, we
like
talked about that too. That
yeah, like
was
who's
who.
molding that team? Like who is? And it's funny, like you said, going back to Sanders, like you would think that's a prime Woody Johnson pick. If he was involved, he'd be like, listen, fourth rounder, let's get this kid. We need a little buzz. We need a little sizzle for the state.
Well,
And he
so
stayed back, and he didn't.
yeah,
Captain Chaos. See, I don't think his fingers were in on anything this time. Paul?
that's why it was boring. And so Captain Chaos, after his disastrous debut as a general manager last year, which failed miserably, realized that it's probably not a good idea. But how much patience is he gonna have? So, Dan, we talked about this on the last show. I just think it's way too much responsibility for Aaron Glenn. Being a head coach first timer is tough enough as it is. Now he has to pick the players. He has to talk to the press. Muji, I mean, people were comparing him to John Idzik. I won't go that far, but he's definitely not a dynamic personality. So the Jets, it's going to be too much on Glenn. And I've already talked about this too, Dan, is I'm concerned that he's just going to fall into the New York media trap where that's not going to be a good team. I mean, Vegas has him at like 5 wins, and Vegas is not going to be wrong by a substantial amount. So the Jets' best chance, 8 wins maybe on their best. Yeah, well, that would be like a great season.
Yeah.
At 8-9. But what happens if they go 5-12? Is Aaron Glenn's personality? Is he going to be able to handle it? And he cannot fall into the trap. And that's why they just hopefully he's just transparent and he tells it like it is, and don't start fights with the media. And then if the fans start booing, don't start fights with the fans. It's not the fans' fault. If you really think about it, guys, it's amazing this franchise has any fans.
Yeah, that's the thing. And if you get off on the wrong foot with the media, especially as the Jets, they're going to look to stick it to you. They're not going to make it easy on you. And if you have a temper, it's going to be, just give you vanilla answers. I mean, that's what Daboll's doing now. He was beat down and he just doesn't tell you anything at the press conferences, And again, is that his personality? I liked him better when he was fiery, but you can only do that when you win it. And if you're losing, people don't want to hear it, And like I said, with the Jets, Aaron Glenn can't be angry, if they're asking you questions. You got to work the media. So,
he's very I see, I've watched him several times. He's a very sensitive guy. I don't know how well he's going to be able to handle the press because he already seems angry already.
Well, because he played here, and he probably is pissed at Rich Cimini when he covered him as a player 20 years ago. Because let's face it, or 25 years ago, or no, I guess it's 20. No, actually, is it 30 years ago? Aaron Glenn played in the 90s. I can't believe it, guys. Times are flying. So, and I think Cimini was the guy back then. So, you're right. He's already going in with a preconceived thought about how to deal with the media. The early returns I think he's going to fall into the trap. And it's just too much responsibility. It's just ridiculous. And now Captain Chaos is going to, I'm not involved. I have nothing to do with it. So I mean, it's the Jets. How in the world can you be optimistic? And people say, you're such a pessimist. It's like, how can you not be a pessimist?
I don't know how, by you saying all this, I don't know how we're even talking about the Jets. I mean, we've been bruised and battered and scarred. I don't know
Drives
what
the
other
ratings.
words we could use.
Drives the ratings.
Loves football. I mean, that's it. Yeah. Football is the ultimate sport. People watch it. I mean, obviously you bet on it, but again, you can watch any football game. That's just and the NFL knows that, and they get away with all this nonsense. They want to play games all over the globe. They want to make it globally. It just drives you nuts. Did you see that draft? I don't know if it was the third round, the third day. They got people from all over the world announcing the draft pick.
Oh. Yeah.
From Ireland, from Scotland, and then they were coming up on stage. You were getting hit with these people. I'm like, what do they say? Like, I mean, it's good for them. I mean, they're excited, blah, blah, blah. But again, it's like, all right, enough.
How about some of the fans how about a season ticket holder who's been a season ticket holder for 30 or 40
Yeah.
years? How about let them do the pick?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you're
mean,
right. It's always got to be somebody from a foreign country. And it's just like, okay, here and there, I get it. But
yeah,
yeah, the NFL, man, Roger Goodell, it's just, that guy is just, he's tough to take. And I guess what they announced he was in D.C. and the president, of course, had an open opportunity to talk some crap in front of them. That was pretty funny, right? So it's going to be on the Washington Mall next year. So
million people the same.
is that what they're going to? That's what they're saying.
People are going to be there, so I don't doubt.
Hey,
I can't believe that many people was in Green Bay. Did you see all the people that were there? Oh my
yeah,
God!
it's crazy. And then it's so funny because the Jets will be picking in the top 5, and they'll be picking a quarterback.
Yeah.
So there'll be a lot of Jet fans in that millions of people there. So
This the optimist time of year, brother. You got to think positive.
all right. Well, yeah. So any
Oh, and
other
the Commanders,
thoughts,
by
Dan?
the
I'm
way,
sorry.
the Commanders actually get a new stadium too.
Right, they got a new stadium going
Yeah.
back to where RFK
RFK,
was.
knocking down RFK.
Well, God, yeah, that's pretty funny. When I was at school at Maryland, we had a couple of games at RFK, and that stadium used to actually move. It's pretty funny. The lower deck would actually move, kind of like the old Chase Stadium. So
Yeah.
yeah, good for the Commanders who are now obviously in Danny's division.
coming up, right?
Where, yeah, like you said, Dan, there's no doubt the Jets, I said them predicted for last. The Giants are right with them, right? I mean, I don't think anybody's picking them to be anywhere but last in the NFC East.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't think. Again, I mean, Dallas. They can't beat anybody in the division. They beat Washington. Now they can't beat Washington anymore. So now where
Yeah.
do you go from that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but again, Daniel's got his second year. He's got to
Yeah,
see.
could
He's
change.
got to prove it. Second year, he's gonna
Yeah.
have a step back. But you got to keep drafting good. That's what it's about: drafting and your backups, which is hard to do because of the salary cap. But you get these teams that are constantly drafting the middle rounds, and they keep replenishing their team. They're smart people. We don't have smart people in New York. We haven't had since, of course, he was good. Giants haven't had anybody since then. I mean, so again, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
Like we've both been bad for so long. Usually, it's one or the other. But I don't see any end in sight next year. But you want to see a little improvement. And that's all you can ask.
Well, there's no doubt that the Giants, there's some excitement there. They have defensively, the Jets are just they're going to be and this may be the best thing for the Jets is get off the front page, and they're just going to be, are they competent, right? When they take the field and they play their games, do they look like a professional team, not taking dopey penalties? And that's something that that to me is the thing to watch in year one. Will they be disciplined? Will they have some imagination on offense? It's going to be hard, obviously, with no weapons. But are they just going to be competent and not just be smart? And are they going to cut players who do dumb things, unlike the last regime? And they just put up with guys making stupid mistakes constantly, and it just becomes a habit. And that's something that's got to end.
Well, that was their downfall with such a great defense with minimal offense, right? How many times they would get a team off the field and then, they get that big holding penalty. They get the roughing the passer penalty, roughing the quarterback, hitting the guy out of bounds. And then they go to the sideline and Salah would slap them on the butt and say, all right, don't worry. But that would be a constant theme, right? And it would undermine their defense, how good they were,
Well,
And
they got to just,
how good they were.
that
And
to me is
still-
that's what to watch. That's what you got to watch.
So.
All right. Any last thoughts, John or Dan, on the NFL and the draft? Anything out there you want to talk about before we shift over?
There's always hope. There's always hope. That's all we have.
Quick because they said this was deep with the tight ends. You guys' thoughts on the tight end that didn't go? The guy from Penn State. They said the Jets were going to take him, and he didn't even go. It wasn't even the first tight end picked.
Correct. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, we had talked about the tight ends, and I had said that I desperately did not want the Jets to take a tight end in the first round. They did not, so I'm a happy guy. Tyler Warren, he went to Indianapolis, where he should actually
Daniel Jones, yeah.
There you go, Daniel Jones and Richardson. So yeah, there's already some funny things developing around the league, and the Browns themselves, where they took a quarterback in the third round, Dylan Gabriel. They have Joe Flacco, incredibly, and Kenny Pickett with
Unbelievable.
Shadur Sanders. And I'm sorry, Sanders is probably going to be playing this year. It's so funny. They got four of them. How are they going to fit him on the roster? So maybe Pickett gets cut. I cannot believe they're going to roll out Joe Flacco in
Oh,
2025.
please. Oh,
I mean, that's just beyond belief. So I
ugh,
guess we should be happy, John, we're not Brown fans.
no. But listen, with them having Sanders, they have something to look forward to,
We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, it's going to be
right?
interesting. You're right.
That's
As a
exciting.
fan,
If he gets on the field, they're gonna have some excitement,
well, hey, they got him in the fifth round. My God, talk about
right?
value. So yeah, there's other storylines there. It would take us forever, but we want to get to the winter sports, and Dan, we'll start with because before we get to the biggest news, I guess of the current time, right? Because we are talking on Tuesday, right? It's the 6th of May, day after Cinco de Mayo, and also Dan, you walked up the World Trade Center, 100 and how many? It's
No,
104, right?
actually, it was the free. It was
The free, right?
stair climb for the fire department foundation. Uh,
Okay,
the Tunnel for Towers does the World Trade Center down there, the Freedom Tower. They do a step climb. This
right,
was another one, the Fire Department Foundation. It was their third annual climb to the summit, and that's at One Vanderbilt
Yeah.
Plaza in Manhattan,
ah,
and that's only 93 stories. So I signed up with a bunch of the guys. Unfortunately, I was the only one doing it. Everybody kind of dropped out at the end, but I managed to make it to the top. 93 stories. Uh, you
Good for
know,
you.
charity, and still got a couple of miles on these old bones, and it was like the tortoise and the hare, slow and steady, just methodical, put my head down, and yeah, made it to the top. So
and
maybe
you
there's
did it without your cohorts. Everybody dropped, so you literally were going up by yourself, or you knew some of the
yeah,
guys.
with the other firemen, I
Yeah.
linked up with the other teams, the other young
Okay.
guns, because a lot of active guys. I was retired,
Okay. So
so
it was not the Freedom Tower. I stand corrected.
no, no, that's next month. I actually thought I was signing up for the Freedom Tower, but I wound up on, like I said, a good organization, the Firefighters Foundation, and like I said, I'm glad I did it. I survived, so maybe I got something, a couple more of those in my pocket down the road.
And
So
Paul,
that's
have you ever been in that building?
The Vanderbilt building?
Yeah,
I have not, but it's funny
beautiful.
because
It's a beautiful building.
beautiful.
I
Yeah,
I've
heard
been in it.
it's
yeah.
funny. Related to my job, my vendor is actually located in that building, so
Uh,
Really?
I will be going there eventually when I make that dreaded trip into the wonderful city that I used to go in all the time, which I rarely see anymore. So it'd be kind of good to go back.
you got to
Besides
promise
the
me.
garden,
You got to
yes.
promise me you take the stairs then. Okay.
Oh yes, John.
Yes.
Yes, of course. I can't imagine. So yeah, I could do 10 flights and then wait 10 days and then do another 10, and I would eventually get there in a couple
Don't
weeks.
underestimate yourself. Like I said, I
Oh
put
boy, I
down
don't
stuff,
know, dude.
and once momentum takes you and you start going, and
Okay.
next thing
I
you
could
know,
play 18 rounds of golf. I mean, 18 holes. I've got 18 rounds, 18 holes of golf, Dan. But yeah, the days of walking up 100, 90 floors. And I actually worked on the 104th floor in the old Trade Center, believe it or not.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
actually had to walk down once due to a fire issue, incredibly. So I have walked down 104
which was
flights.
probably tough too, right?
Yeah, but you know what? It's so funny. You think, I mean, obviously going up is so much harder, but actually from like a vertigo situation, when you're going down, it's not
Yeah.
like it's just actually a strange feeling because it's you're going in circles too. But yeah, from a pain issue, it's not hard, but it actually is not as easy as you think.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, let's talk hockey. The Rangers. Hey, we got a new coach, Mike Sullivan. Left the Penguins. Basically they're in a full blown rebuild. They let him out. I think they kind of wanted to move on. Sullivan's interesting because he won his cups early in his career. The last few years, the Penguins haven't even made the playoffs. I think it's 3 years. Chris Drury's buddy from BU, not that they went there together, but they're both alums. So the Rangers have a new coach. I'm extremely happy with the choice. They did not go the full-fledged retread like the last selection, so that's good. And the other story is Mika Zibanejad supposedly sold his place in the West Village, I saw. So I don't know if he's going to be open to getting moved now on his no trade. The great Chris Kreider career is probably going to be ending in New York as he's probably going to get moved. So the Rangers are going to have a new look. They'll obviously still have Igor, so they're going to be in a mini rebuild. But the big story, Dan, you get to talk a little hockey, the locals, what happened, the miracle of the ping pong balls. Was it a fixed? Do they do it by ping pong balls, or did they have the card in the toaster oven or something
I don't
before?
know.
So
It's a la the Knicks getting Patrick Ewing almost.
right, way back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a conspiracy saying because they screwed the Islanders out of the All-Star game that they gave them the number one pick. But yeah, I think they had was like a 3.5% chance to get the number one pick. And yeah, we lucked out. I mean, but unfortunately, we have the number one pick.
Yeah.
But it's just like the Giants picking 3 this year. All the quarterbacks are coming out next year. And I don't know much about the draft, just from what my kids are telling me, So they're saying the best prospect, number one prospect, is a defenseman, young
Right.
defenseman. So
Yes,
now,
there's not a clear cut, there's not a
last year there was.
McDavid or McKinnon
Yeah,
or Crosby type. It's
yeah.
unfortunate. It's kind of when the Rangers won the lottery and they got Alexis
Rangers got
Lafreniere.
2
So
You got Lafreniere and you got Capo, whatever.
right, 2 years in a row they won. They got the second
So,
pick in the first.
yeah.
Neither obviously Capo's gone. So it's still better. Obviously, it's a heck of a lot better. They got to get some size, Dan. I think I mean, they just, I don't know. The Islanders, they're in this weird situation, right? Because they're kind of in between. Like, where are they headed? They're finally, right? Zekas,
Yeah.
Clutterbuck, Martin,
Not-
right? That
yeah.
era is finally ending.
They got rid of Lou. Lou is gone.
Right, Lou,
Got
right?
rid of
The
Lou.
other big story.
Or he would have traded the number one pick right off the bat because that's what he does. He trades all the number one picks. So yeah, it's going to be interesting because they're looking for a new general manager. They might be keeping Roy. They don't know if they're going to keep him because they don't got the new general manager. Might not want
Yeah,
to
it's
keep
weird. That's
know.
not a good combination. You want the GM to pick his own guy.
Yeah.
him. Yes. So although they just mentioned that they got rid of, I read in the paper today, I think it's the Kings got rid of their general manager. And supposedly, I think his name is Blake. He's well known throughout the league. He built.
Oh, yeah, Rob Blake. He was a great player, Rob Blake. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Okay.
and he's good friends with Roy. So again,
Aha.
is that
Okay.
dynamic would work? I don't know. I don't know how many people need GMs, like fire the GMs, because people would need their coaches. But that's again, hockey. Like I said, it's weird. If you know hockey up and down, you're good. But it doesn't get a lot of air in the paper, right? I mean, we got it this because they got the number one pick, and then who the Giants, the Islanders are gonna, have the option to draft. And there's a Long Island kid too, that's supposedly up there in the top 4. But
Yes.
it's another one pick. You got, you want somebody to make a difference. I want an 18-year-old scorer, but doesn't seem to be any in this draft per se. Like like a real non-miss player. So
Right.
and you're right. So the Islanders, they got to decide what they're going to do. They have a mini core, but you got to fill the plate. Look at the teams that are in the playoffs now. Built big, rugged teams that, as the Rangers found out last year, these are teams like Carolina, Florida. These are the teams that, make it deep in the playoffs. So
Yeah.
Yep, physical, size. You got to have size and speed, toughness. So yeah, the NHL's having some great series, and it's so funny because when I was watching this game the other night, and I'm not watching a tremendous amount of the NHL playoffs, I have to admit, since my team is nowhere to be found. But I did stumble into Game 7, St. Louis,
What a
Winnipeg. And
Unbelievable.
when I was watching this, guys, my whole thought was like, I can't wait to do the show so I can make the big announcement that there is no more useless trophy than the President's Cup in hockey. When the Winnipeg Jets, the Jets, John, somehow, I mean, I'm telling you guys that, and I believe both of you guys were watching, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and literally with 2 minutes to go, pulling the goaltender, not once, but then on that last play, for the people who didn't see it, with seconds to go,
1.6 seconds.
right?
1.6.
And the crazy thing about that, if you watch that play, the puck was out at the point. The
Yeah.
guy takes a slap shot. He basically whiffs, right? And it just goes slowly, and then somehow his teammate got it right back to him, right? And then he immediately said, "I'm desperate. Let me throw it across the ice to another player who basically said the same thing. Let me suddenly throw it out in front," and then incredibly gets deflected in. Unbelievable ending. Not an ending, but a tie,
No,
which
but and it
went in
gave him a
overtime.
chance to go into overtime, which was
Yes.
pretty crazy too.
Well,
I mean,
that's
Right.
what
So
that
you
was
hit.
such a choke by the
Oh,
Blues.
yeah. But Paul, you hit the nail on the head. The NHL did not want to see Winnipeg lose because that was like the Canadian team, most points in the league, President Trophy, and then you're going to be bumped. The goaltender for Winnipeg is like up for the Veneza Trophy for the best goalie in the
yeah,
league.
Hellebuck.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but he only wins at home. He can't win on the road. He got pulled 3 of the games, in
That's
the playoffs.
crazy.
So yeah, I mean now getting out of the first round seems to be the toughest for some of these teams. I will see what they're going to do after. They got a tough series against Dallas. Dallas
Yeah.
gets playing them because just the way they configure the playoffs, the NHL
You're right.
doesn't make sense either.
Yeah.
You should
They don't play the best,
They
doesn't play the
don't.
worst. Yes. Yeah. They
It's
had
crazy.
in the West, right? They had the third place team, Dallas, play the fifth place team, Colorado, right?
Yeah,
In the first round. Makes no sense. They had a great series. Now McKinnon's out. He's a great player.
yeah,
Edmonton came from way back and won. So there was a lot of great series.
yeah.
And then I guess the East last night, Toronto actually won last night,
They
right,
did.
John?
They beat up Florida. They were up either 5-1. It ended
Right.
5-4. So like I said, never shut it off. You never
Well,
know.
I'm sure they definitely want a Canadian team versus an American
Uh,
USA team this year for a little added spice for some, this ridiculous rivalry that's supposedly around.
I,
But yeah, no, that was crazy comeback. And then yeah, the Winnipeg Jets, they would have been the brunt of so many jokes in New York being the Jets. So I really missed an opportunity there. So we'll see how they do in the next round. So yeah, congrats to them. So yeah, anything else in the NHL before I guess we're gonna get to the next topic, which now, John, I think you and a lot of other people, everybody's going to admit it. We were all looking for something to do when it was an 18, 20-point game. And I mean, this is the most bizarre game that you could ever watch. And there was another crazy game that happened out west last night,
Oh,
which we'll get
please. I
to.
saw
That's
that game too.
insanity. But the Boston Celtics Knicks game, where John, the Celtics shot 60. That's a 6 and a 0, 3-pointers, and made 15.
wow.
I just still, I mean, you watch this, they were up by 20 points and they were heaving threes. Would they miss 10 in a row from three?
Yeah,
And the Knicks chip away and somehow take the lead, right? They were
yeah,
up and then
yes,
lost the lead. So I'll
yeah,
let you take it, you being the big Knicks fan. Well, you must have been like, I mean, you had to be out of your mind watching that craziness.
yeah. It's funny. When they were behind by 20, I'm saying to myself, they're playing sloppy. They're making these ridiculous passes. And the one thing I've been complaining about all year with them is them defending against a 3-point shot. So what helped them last night is defending against the 3-point shot. They finally woke up. It's like it was like a totally different team. The first 2.5 quarters of the game, they were getting destroyed on the boards. They were, I mean, it was a mess. It was an absolute mess. All of a sudden, they clamped down on the 3-point shooting, which it was great to watch. I said, finally, they're doing something about this. So go down with some pride, at least. I didn't think they were coming back. But then very slowly, hit it, 3-point here. Adenobi was catching fire. 3-pointers, 3-pointers. Hart all over the place. And this is with Brunson on the bench with fouls. You had Towns on the bench with, I think, 4 fouls at the time. So they made this entire comeback in such a short period of time that by the time they came to the fourth quarter, they were only down by 8. Down by 8. And I was very proud of them. This was the team that I've been looking for all year. Play tough, go out to the 3-point line. Don't let them get these easy 3-pointers. And just play rough and tough with this team. Listen, Orlando beat them doing the same exact thing, just roughing them up. This is a soft team. I think the Celtics are a very, very soft team. But they're an excellent. Every guy they have is an excellent 3-point shooter. So let's not get too happy that we won this game because maybe they hit 45 3-pointers in the next game. But
right.
But yet, as a New York Knicks fan, this is really what I was hoping for last year. To get a chance to play them because I know we can beat them. But listen. I mean, there's nothing else you could say. Hart played. He's the heart of the team. That guy is all over the place. Gets rebounds. And I have to put in Bridges. Bridges played. He hasn't played a lick of defense all year. Finally, he played defense. He played a great defensive game. He didn't score many points. Robinson, I wish he would. Paul, can you go to Madison Square Garden and teach him how to shoot a foul shot, please?
We got to talk about that.
This guy is just, and you see him practicing at the foul line like this. I said, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. You don't push it. It's like he's pushing the ball half the time.
But we did briefly talk about this via text, where the NBA has got to change the rule. And they changed it in the last 2 minutes of the quarters where you can't do it. If the player does not have the ball, you foul them. It's a shot in the ball, 1 shot, and you keep the ball. That will end this crap. If he's got the ball, okay, you can foul him. That's totally legit. You can't be running up the court and then grabbing him and yelling at the official, I'm fouling. And they lost, right? Because Brunson would have had a 3-point play the old-fashioned way.
Yep.
And it was they reviewed that, right? And they called it a foul where, Robinson has to shoot. That's not basketball.
Yeah.
I mean, if he has the ball, then you can hack him. That's totally different. It's ridiculous. It's bad for the league. It's not basketball.
Yeah,
and unfortunately for the Knicks, they're going to have to pull him off the court when that happens because, right, John, he's not going to suddenly get it together. Even though during the season he wasn't that bad, right? So
he was, I think, like 57%.
Yeah, it's not that bad. So hopefully he'll make them pay. I really just hate that rule. So yeah, the bottom line is you go on the road in a 7-game series, you got to try to split, right? You got to get that game. So now at least just brings a ton of excitement. It would have been a complete downer if they got beat bad in game
right,
one.
Right.
So the fact that, like you said, it was great that they even just came back to make it a game, no less win. But you're right. Ultimately, the Celtics shoot better. The Knicks are in big trouble. So who knows? This could be one of these series, right, where it could just be 5-game series where Boston just starts hitting their shots.
Right.
But if they defend the 3,
there, right? if they defend the three,
Yeah, they got to defend.
the Celtics are in trouble. The
They gotta
Celtics
defend.
are in big trouble because the Knicks have better defenders than they do. And you see very quickly how Jaylen Brown gets frustrated. He's a guy, he's going to be like the way Scottie Pippen was when the Knicks used to play against the Bulls. You put a little pressure on these guys, they wilt. Tatum is a great player. He's a tough, but I if the Knicks played the way they did for the last quarter or quarter and a half, we could win this series. This is the way I thought last year. If they could continue playing like that way, when I say that way, not like the first 2.5 quarters where they weren't defending anything. They just rough them up. Just rough this team up. You rough them up, they're going to wilt.
And then Porzingis.
And we got some tough guys too.
Porzingis went out, right? With he was sick or something, right? He left the game. So
he was sick. I don't know what kind of sickness that was.
All right. So So when is game 2? The NBA likes to drag this stuff out. It is tomorrow. Tomorrow night. That will be Wednesday. So John's all fired up. So before we get to our last part, we just got to quickly talk about the OKC Denver game.
You're talking about another
Dan,
show.
you are not an NBA guy, so it's thanks for hanging in here. But that
was a choke of all chokes.
Now, John, did you watch the game live?
I saw the last quarter of that game.
You did? Okay, so you saw the end. I was asleep, but it was great because one of the NBA sites on X showed the last 2 minutes of the game uninterrupted, which is the only thing everybody's who's not a huge NBA fan. Oh, just let me watch the last 2 minutes of an exciting game. And this whole situation was so bizarre with the fouling, this obsession with fouling up 3. Yeah, you foul up 3. When you're up 3, when it's less than 5 seconds, that's when you do it. They started doing it at 14 or 12 seconds?
It was ridiculous. Yeah.
So Dan, basically what happened was OKC, the Thunder, was up by 3 points. Denver has the ball, but it was plenty. They didn't even let him dribble the ball up to half court, and he fouls them. They go to the line. They get 2 free throws, and it's a 1-point game, right? And then OKC goes down, and they foul him, and then Chet Holmgren, right? He missed both free throws. Right? But there was another part of it where Jokic wasn't in the game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He's their best player, though, no?
But so what happened there, John? The OKC called a timeout to get, and it allowed Jokic to get back in the game. Do I have this right, or am I butchering?
Well, no, it was when Holmgren was shooting that they brought Jokic back in. That was the play before that he was not in.
Right, but that's when he came in. Oh, was on the foul? I thought they called a timeout to allow him to come back in the game.
No, they didn't have any timeouts left, the Nuggets.
No, but OKC called the timeout to let him back on the court. Isn't that the way it played out?
No. I believe it was when Holmgren was shooting the foul shots, which he missed both. The funny thing was that the way the play ended up, that they didn't give it to Jokic. They didn't give it to Murray. They gave it to Woods to shoot the 3 to win the game. It's unbelievable how they won that game, Denver.
It wasn't not Woods. What do you mean? You got Gordon. You mean Aaron Gordon?
I'm sorry. I keep saying Woods. It's Gordon. Right, correct. Gordon got the 3.
Right. So anyway, I thought there was another component there where there was a bad decision by OKC. They fouled.
They made a lot of bad decisions. They
fouled up 3 2 different times, right? It wasn't once. They did it twice, and both times Denver was able to hit both free throws on both times, and then they fouled Holmgren, and he missed the free throws. So I screwed up the timeout thing. So I don't know how many fans of Bouk and Zoobie are watching OKC and Denver, but
Yeah, but that was
anyway,
a
Dan, it
choke.
was a
That
great
was,
game. What can I tell you? I
and
kind of
that was a
screwed that
Who's
up.
choke.
the
And that
favorite?
was a choke.
Who's the favorite in that series? Oh,
OKC.
OKC.
OKC. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
they're the President's Trophy winner of the NBA, right, John?
They're the
So
team
that
that
Yeah.
beat
just
the
shows you.
West. Okay.
All right. So Dan, I got to ask you a question. When you listen to our show, do you get like this feeling like when something comes at the end of the show and I make this big introduction for something, do you like that fact? Do you want to hear it? Or is it something like that shit is too old, you guys got to move on? So what's your view on
No, I think it's good. Listen,
you
it's
want me to
gives
do
the
it?
fans, yeah, give the fans something to get ready for because you're going to drop them.
Okay, so this is our tradition. Dan, I should probably let you do it, but I'm not going to let you do it because it is time, folks. And this guy has been chomping at the bit. He had to sit through an NFL draft episode and not talk about his beloved New York Metropolitans and a little bit of Yankees with baseball. With
Yeah, it is absolutely miraculous that the Mets are 23-13. Okay, 10 games over 500 with so many injuries. The Yankees actually have really bad injuries, but the Mets just lost two of their left-handed starters. Minter's out for the year. He just declared. Danny Young, Tommy John surgery, out for the year. So um, I'm very surprised that they're doing this well. I have to be honest. But my two pitchers that I told you, Paul, to keep an eye on, McGill
yes,
and Kranick. Those are the two, and they're both doing very, very well. McGill's been doing really well. So starting pitching is doing fine for now. Um, I just wish that we would have another starting pitcher, and we need more relief because they've been relying way too much on their relief pitchers. I mean, Stanek has blown 3 games for us. I mean, the Mets should actually have a record at least of 26-10, to be honest, with the games that they've blown the past couple of, like the past week. But otherwise, my man Brett Beatty's back. I'm very happy to see that they brought him up.
all right.
Um, Acuna playing very well. McNeil, my opinion, they're going to use him as trade bait. I think McNeil will be out of here pretty soon. If they could get a starting pitcher for him, if some team is desperate for offense, I think you'll see Jeff McNeil gone. I didn't mention that Siri is out too. I mean, we haven't spoken for such a long time. Siri's out with a tibia fracture. So we really don't really have a legitimate center fielder other than Taylor right now. So, but they look good. They look good. The Yankees look a little shaky, and I've been saying it all year. I know Dan's a Yankee fan, but
Yeah,
you
I haven't,
know,
I haven't immersed myself in the baseball so much yet, and but I know, yeah, look, the polar bear. Let's get back to your Mets, the polar bear. Thank goodness for Alonso, huh? Soto start hitting, maybe. I mean, what's those? So now, were you guys Alonso guys? You wanted him back? I'm pretty sure
oh
both of you
Oh
yeah,
my God,
wanted him back.
of course.
Yeah. So
John,
now,
I
yeah, sorry, Dan, but to me, that's the biggest story of the Mets season
yeah.
is that how well he is hitting and
yeah,
how different he is hitting
he's
Yeah.
and
comfortable.
how
He, oh,
and how every team in the league, including the Yankees, could have signed Pete Alonso. I'm sorry, that is a huge story.
It's a
And
huge story.
and it just he's got the opt out now,
Yes, he
yeah.
does.
Do
John.
you think they're going to pay him? Do you think they're going to keep him around?
I
Because what's his name
I
signed
think I think the Mets are going to give him 5 years, 175 million to stay.
during the season? During the season, they're going to
And
do it.
no, Cohen likes to wait.
Yeah.
He likes to. I don't know why he would wait, but Paul, I said this to Paul early in the season. before the season started. I said Pete Alonso will hit more home runs and drive in more runs than Soto. And it looks,
So far, it's looking
so
good.
far,
Yeah. I mean,
Soto's looked,
eh,
he reminds me of when Carlos Beltran was with the Mets his first year, where he absolutely struggled and people started booing him. And actually, it's pretty funny. Before Soto finally hit his first home run at Citi Field, he was getting a couple of boos. I was at a couple of games this year, and you heard a smattering of boos already. He better be ready if he's he, you know what? I don't want to see someone. He has a great on base percentage, but I really don't want to see someone that we're paying $50 million a year looking for a walk. He looks for what? I mean, he's not swinging. I mean, he's supposed to be this guy that has such command of the strike zone. And I've seen him take pitches right down in the middle of the plate and not swing at them. And I'm like, what
he's been
happened
taking
to
some.
him? There's
Yeah.
no more Soto shuffle now. He says, oh, I got to feel it. Yeah, it means that you don't want to be scrutinized for you dancing around in the batter's box. But yeah, he's and his I think we all knew this, that he's not a very good outfielder.
Right.
He's not. I mean, I've seen him miss a couple of fly balls that if even Marte was out there, who has bad knees, would have caught. So
Yeah, he's
I'm
feeling
gonna
the yeah.
I'm gonna withhold my opinion on Soto because I've watched him for many years and he's a very good player, but he's he's not an Otani. When you say superstar, when you think of a superstar, you think of Judge, you think of Otani, okay? You don't think of Soto. Soto is a good player, an excellent player, but he's not a superstar.
Right.
It's
Well,
sort of like Alonso. Alonso's not really a superstar. He's a very good player, but not he's this is not an upper echelon player that um, everyone's expecting him to hit 50 home runs, drive in 150. I said, this is not the type of player you're getting. If he hits 30 and if he gives you 90 RBIs, that's what you're going to get from Soto.
Well,
I'm
shouldn't
glad
that?
yeah, I'm sorry. Glad you mentioned Judge because I'll let Dan take the just like insane season that he's having to
Oof.
date.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Judge is like, starting like last year he started off pretty lousy. Now, this year he's like on fire. But, the team is, I mean, it's like you wish they'd be playing. I mean, what are their records at 19 and 13? I mean, the American League's pretty soft. So, I mean, talk about Alonso killing somebody with that big home run against Devin Williams, right?
Yeah.
The Yankees suck.
Oof.
And it's
Yeah.
like, God, talk about a change of, and even last night, they bring him in there. They're up by 3, right? And then let him work himself back into the closer role. And then, and he loads the bases. And so that's going to be a problem. I mean, thank goodness they got this guy freed, right? I mean,
Just,
imagine if they had Cole and freed, but again, you're not going to get Cole back. So, they got to work out some of their issues. Judge is still on fire. And, like I said, it's a weaker American League. So they should be able to weather the storm. But like I
they
said,
should get it. I think their only competition this year at all, if you want to call it competition, might be the Tigers. I don't really see any other team that's going to stop the Yankees from getting back to the World Series, even with all their pitching problems. I mean, and you have to be very careful. I don't want to jinx Yankee fans here, but Fried is an excellent pitcher, but he's had arm problems in the past. I mean, he's pitched. You got a very, very good. He's a very, very good pitcher. I always admired the guy, even though I wanted the Mets to kill him when he was with the Braves. But he's a very, very consistent guy. But watch out for the arm injury with him. He's had a
yeah,
history. He's had a history of that. And you're very lucky that your man Marcus Stroman there faked a knee injury, and he's when he was getting pounded that one game, and I saw him virtually take himself out of the game when there was absolutely no problem with his knee. Uh, you,
yeah,
you need to release that guy, just like you released Carlos Carrasco today. Another guy I can't believe the Yankees let him start games or even appear in games. Carlos Carrasco. I mean, the
Yeah,
Yankees,
but listen,
they're
Stroman,
really hard up.
they wanted to get rid of him before the season started, right? Before Cole went down, they were shopping him around, but they pulled the plug on that. And baseball is such a long season, and
Yeah,
that's why, like, I don't really, it's good. Like now, the Mets are doing good, the Yankees, blah blah blah. I'll turn the
it's a long
games on.
season.
I mean, as a Yankee fan, like I said, they're on Apple, they're on all over the place. It's like trying to find a Yankee game sometimes. I'm like, the Yankees playing tonight. I mean, at least the Mets are still on Channel 11. I mean, I think that the double dip the other day was at least one of the games on Channel 11. So, like, the Yankee days of trying to just, like I said, they're all over the place. So there's so many games. It's, like you say, when come in the middle of the summer when stuff starts meaningful, then, that's when I usually get on board.
Well, I think the most interesting thing with the Yankees is the Judge story because of his struggles in the postseason. The guy is, I mean, the numbers are just ridiculous. I mean, I know it's only a month, or a little, month and a half, but I mean, he's just not. A lot of people aren't talking about it. I know. I guess you could say the Knicks are kind of stealing the headlines in the tri-state. But I think it's just really like, okay, we got to wait for the postseason to put the stamp on Aaron Judge as one of the greats.
Yeah.
Because until he does it in the postseason, there's always going to be that question.
Yeah,
But
I mean, listen, you got to do it I mean, listen, you got to do it when it counts. And unfortunately, and last year against the Dodgers, he had that, horrible outfield play when he misjudged that ball, dropped the ball, the floodgates open. I mean, again, he was out of position. Soto was playing right. Soto was playing right field. He center field. I mean, so again, unfortunately, it seems like he's snake bitten. But until he does it in the postseason, he's always going to have that thing hanging over his head. So.
you know what, Dan? I think that the issue, again, I don't see the Yankees really having any competition. I mean, the only thing with Judge, and it'll hurt them in the postseason, he really doesn't have any protection behind him or in front of him. I mean, if you really look at their lineup, Bellinger's not having a very good year. Goldschmidt is as old as they come, but as long as the right field porch is there, he'll keep aiming for it. So I knew Goldschmidt was going to have a good year, but who do you really have with the Yankees to back him up? They're waiting for Stanton to come back.
Yeah.
Stanton's one of the easiest guys to pitch in the American League and National League. Has power, but will swing at anything. So I think his biggest issue is they can pitch around him whenever they want.
Well, they keep him around for the postseason. I mean, that's the only time he plays decent in the postseason, it seems, And
Yeah.
I mean, Rice. I mean, you got Yankees streaky hitters too. I mean, Volpe. He's hurt now supposedly, and again, I think they're still trying to find their way, but like I said, it's a long season. Hopefully,
It's a long season. Yeah.
iron out some of the stuff, and
Well, we should be happy in the tri-state. So compared to the other sports in this town, baseball, you can't complain. Now, the one funny thing is with the Mets, John, and you're right, they could be a little bit of a phantom at 10 over because let's face it, besides the Phillies, they really haven't played anybody, right? So they haven't played who the top teams? Cubs, Padres, Giants, Dodgers, right? Have they played any of those teams yet?
No, they're playing the Cubs when they come back from Arizona. I'm actually going to go see a game. I think it's Friday night. And then they have the Dodgers near Memorial Day, so they have a 3-game series with them. So yeah, they're going to start facing some more difficult. They have the Yankees coming up I think in a week or so at Yankee Stadium.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
Yankee Stadium.
Stadium. It should be. It makes some excitement.
Yeah,
between the
yeah.
Mets and Mets.
You're right. They haven't really played anyone. I mean, the Diamondbacks are a pretty good team, and so they've been playing them pretty evenly. But like I said, I'm not going to get too excited until we get more towards the middle 3/4 of the season because I'm just waiting. I don't know. Maybe it's the Mets fan in me that something awful is going to happen. I mean, we've already had a lot of injuries. I'm just saying to myself, okay, I know McGill will be fine this year. I know that Peterson and Sanger will be fine. It's the rest of the staff that I really don't trust. Canning has been uncanny, the way he's been throwing.
And then
So
Minaya is also, unfortunately, they put him back he's on the 60
yeah,
day
we knew.
now.
Yeah, we knew that was happening. He's going to come the end of
Unbelievable.
June now,
Well,
and
I
and
think
and we're signing at Montas. Come on, man.
he still
You
has
could have
not
had
pitched.
Severino. They could have had Severino. Actually, the Yankees could have had Severino. The Mets could have had Severino. Look how well he's pitching for the A's.
So one last thing I wanted to ask you about, John, is, and you know me, I've been talking about this forever, and this is baseball wide, right? So the funny thing is, we've talked about this, Dan, is about the amount of pitchers that a baseball team uses in a
Oof.
season. So the Mets incredibly had 37 guys throw at least an inning last year. So John, have you actually looked at the numbers
I,
this
I
year?
I actually I actually should look because they've had so many pitches already this
All
year.
right.
Minor leaguers coming up, throwing a couple of innings, send them down. I mean, it's been crazy,
So
crazy.
the last time I checked, it was 23, and this is 6 weeks into the season. Now they did have a few guys who threw an inning, but that's where it was. So I will try to get that right now. Let me look that up. You guys can talk about another subject.
Well,
Wow. And
the
that's just the Mets with 23 pitches so far this year.
yeah, 23. It's going to be more, Paul. It's going to be more than 37 this year. I can guarantee you that. Guarantee you. Um, well, actually, I have a quiz for both of you.
Okay.
Someone actually this question came up, and I actually got it right. So let's see if you can get this. What player has broken up the most no hitters with a home run? And it's 81 times.
Wait a second. Wait.
What play is broken
What
up?
what player
Okay.
Right.
has broken up the most no hitters with a home run? And it actually happened 81 times for this player
81 times this guy broke
81
up a
home
no
runs?
hitter with a
with a
home
home
run.
run.
Does that count like in the first inning when the guy
Of
hasn't
course,
thrown?
of
Oh,
course.
okay.
Oh. Oh, well, I would say Ricky Henderson's probably
There
a
you
good.
go. All right, good guess, Dan.
He's the best leadoff hitter, you would think.
Good
Very
guess.
good,
See,
Dan.
I
Very
didn't want to
good.
give you that. I didn't want to give you that clue, but I said once I gave you that clue, I said if you couldn't get that one.
All right. Well, hold on. Oh my God, this is absolutely hysterical.
What are they up to?
All right, this is because it would be great if they actually had the numbers, but it looks like what did I tell you the number was before? 23?
23.
Great.
It's 23 still.
Really?
So
Huh.
it's and that included Nunez. So because he just threw an inning and he just added to list. Incredibly, the Mets have had what is this? 4, 5, 6. They've had 10 pitchers who 9 have thrown one inning and one guy has thrown 2 innings.
Wow.
So out of
Wow.
that crazy list, there's so many of them. Now with Minter and Young obviously gone for the season, that is added. Yeah, so it is still at 23, but this is only 6 weeks into the season, and I think the Dodgers have actually had more than that
Yeah, they've
already
had
because they
injuries.
do the openers. But anyway, so my whole point is that the other part of it is that there's an organizational decision, and it's not just the Mets. This is baseball, where they refuse to let the guys throw more than 6 innings. Right? They
Yeah, I
have
was gonna
basically
say that. Yeah.
decided
Yeah.
that the last time through, right, John?
Yep.
The Mets, how many? This is the organization has made this decision. I'm sorry. I don't know how in the world you don't want to stretch to 7. Because why in the world do you want 3? You have to get 9 outs every night from your bullpen.
Right.
It's amazing. Now the Dodgers, they won the World Series, so maybe I'm completely wrong about this, but it still drives me crazy.
Well,
Analytics, right? That's what they're saying. I mean, listen, you're
Third
right.
time
Three
through. Yep.
innings, third time through. But again, if you have a horse, you have a stud pitcher, it's like that's,
let them go.
so you should ride, right? Give your bullpen a rest. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know.
I'll tell you one last thing that drives me crazy, Paul. So the Cubs are coming in. And who is one of the top players on the Chicago Cubs that used to be a New York Met?
I know where you're headed because you talked about him a lot last year, right?
Pete Crow Armstrong.
All right. So what are his numbers? We'll close the show with the Crow Armstrong update. So
Okay.
what is his
He
number?
has hit 9 home runs, driven in 26 runs, is batting over 300. This is a player that we drafted. Actually, you know who drafted him was, oh my God. I'm trying to remember the general manager now.
Alderson.
Alderson, thank you. Alderson drafted him, and who gave him away for Javier Baez and Trevor Williams? These are the players we got. This was like for whatever pennant run they thought they were going to make. And they gave up who was their number one prospect to the Cubs. And look what he's doing now. And he's playing a tremendous center field. It makes me sick to see that we gave up because we need a center fielder. This kid could have been our center fielder now.
Yeah,
No,
that was a bad one.
we had it for a dirtbag, Javi Baez, which the Tigers were stupid enough to give such a ridiculous contract. He's not even playing shortstop anymore. I think they have him in the outfield now. I think Javi Baez has 1 home run this year. I think he had under 10 last year.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the worst trades by what I call the used car salesman that we
Brody,
had.
you didn't mention his name, right?
Yeah.
Did you mention his name?
Brody Van Wagenen.
There you go. Well, that's a great way to end the show. I know we've been talking a long time. So, Dan, as always, thanks for coming on, talking some sports. We will definitely, I think, Dan, what do you think? A little NFL show right before the season starts? I think that's a perfect time to get you back on. So maybe a little time in August after those family vacations. You had a little tan, all of us. So again, as always, great time talking Giants mostly, but everything, a little bit of everything tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys reaching out. And like I said, it's always a pleasure to, talk sports with 2 of the knowledgeable guys I know.
There you go. And only one expletive for the show for Dan. That was good. So I'm glad we ended on on top there. So, John, it's been a long day. I barely can speak. Who do we got to thank?
Again, thank you to our producer, Zach Zubulake, and to our loyal listeners and viewers. We love the feedback. Keep it coming. Also, thanks to our community partners, Ronald McDonald House, Kids in Seats, and the Jackie Robinson Foundation. See you in 2 weeks.